I have never had a bad computer. My life has been rather privileged. Even back when I started this channel, when I was using iMac G3s, I still had a modern PC without Vista that I could explore the internet on after a day of waiting for my iMac G3 to do something. Life for me has been fantastic. However, after witnessing the horror of a PC that my best friend had to grow up with, I decided to challenge myself to put away all of my expensive toys and get back to my roots, plant myself right back in the ground next to a celery plant. Maybe even use the celery as a computer. This is my spare gaming PC. It has an AMD FX 8350 overclocked to 4.4 GHz, a Gigabyte GA970A D3P motherboard, a Raymax Cobra case, an NMAX 650W power supply, a GTX 960, 8GB of RAM which isn't currently in it, and a 2TB Western Digital Green. It's mainly used when I have LAN parties and have people over who've got no computers. It's very handy just to have a very powerful rig lying around, doing nothing so that when people come over, they can just borrow it. It happens quite often. People are glad that I have it. This is my primary gaming computer. I only use it for games that cannot be played on a Mac, such as the epic Grand Theft Auto 5. It has a Corsair 750D, a Core i7 4790K being cooled by a Corsair H90 liquid cooler, an Asus Z970 motherboard, a Corsair RM750M power supply, 8GB of G-Skill Ripjaw's 1866MHz RAM, and a GTX 760. It's truly a beast. This computer is the fastest computer that I own. Its only downfall is that it has a 256GB SSD. No mechanical drives here. That means that it runs out of storage very quickly, so I don't use it for ordinary tasks, only gaming. GTA 5 by itself is over 60 gigs, so storage on this computer is cramped. I can't afford to put any of my music or photos on it. This is the computer I use daily, a mid-2011 29.5-inch iMac. Rocking 32 gigs of RAM and 10 TB of storage coupled to a 2.5 GHz quad-core i5, its only weakness is the graphics card, which is mediocre at best. I still love it though, I've had it since new. My MacBook Pro is a 2013 Retina model. It's the top spec model with a 2.6 GHz Core i5, 8 gigs of RAM and a 512 gig solid state hard drive. It's brilliant. Oh yeah, then there's Boris 2000. Boris 2000 is my sleeper PC, rocking a Core i7 4790K, 4GB of RAM, soon to be a GTX 750 Ti and a 1TB Western Digital Black. It's an awesome computer. People don't expect it. Now the contenders for the worst computer I have rules are as follows. The computer's processor has to be slower than 1 GHz. The computer has to have been bad when it was new. The computer has to be new enough to run Windows XP or macOS 10.4. The computer is allowed to receive minor upgrades that make it more usable, fan, thermal paste, RAM, etc. The computer has to use a CRT monitor. And finally, I have to use only this computer for 48 hours straight. The only other modern device I can use is my iPhone for documenting my struggle. Now, I have a bunch of old decrepit computers. I need to find out which one is the most vile piece of computer garbage ever built. And I have to use it. Ugh. Our first contestant is a pinnacle of human engineering, the HP Pavilion 8831. This beast has a 766MHz socket 370 Celeron with a whopping 64 megs of RAM, a 20.4, gotta remember that, 0.4 GB hard drive with Windows Mistake Edition, tops off this masterpiece and proves it's genuinely dire. This thing doesn't even have any sort of GPU slot at all. Horrid. What makes this even worse is that it has a loud, grindy fan and a whining hard drive. Our second contestant is a 1998 PowerMac G3 blue and white. This machine is rather elderly and has trouble with the most basic things due to its aging 300MHz G3 processor, 512 megs of RAM which has been upgraded extensively, and its 40GB hard drive which has also been extensively upgraded. The ATI Rage 128 is so slow I become enraged every time I see it. Sorry Greenham Gaming. It is loud due to a noisy fan bearing and has little modern day use. Luckily for it, Mac collectors love it to bits for its iconic design. This design marked the return of Steve Jobs to his company. Compared to the beige mini towers of yesteryear, this Power Mac looks positively futuristic. But will that save it from being labelled my worst computer? Who knows? There is only one way I can describe our third contestant. Behold the Gateway Essential NZ series computer. Built in 2001, this is a super budget, low profile desktop computer aimed at bringing computing to the masses. It sucks. In 2001, it came with a 20 gig hard drive, which isn't too bad, 32 megs of RAM, which is pathetic, Windows Mistake Edition, no Ethernet port, and an 800 MHz salary. The 32 megs of RAM was very low for the time, probably because this thing counts every single kilobyte of RAM before it posts. You cannot change this. It takes minutes to post. Now that wouldn't be too bad because this was a cheap computer, but there was one major mistake. The worst thing by far about this computer is that the CPU and chipset are passively cooled. The only fan in the system is the fan in the 70 watt no-name power supply. You know, that would have been fine if the engineers who built this turd had remembered about the laws of physics. Heat rises. The heat in the case rises to the top where there is no airflow. The computer then promptly shuts down due to high temperatures. Absolutely useless. I chose the HP 8831 over the Gateway and Power Mac because it was terrible when it was new. The Power Mac was epic when it was new. The Gateway was okay considering it was about 400 New Zealand dollars, which is very cheap for the time. The 8831 is painful to use and is horrendously loud. I'm going to regret this.